on this particular Sunday of Advent that John the Baptist makes his appearance into the Advent story. His was a voice crying in the wilderness. His was the voice crying to the faithful people of God, and his message to them was simple. Prepare. Prepare a way for the Lord. Make his paths straight. It was this great prophet, in fact, the greatest of the prophets, as Jesus would say, who had been sent by God to call people to prepare for the arrival of the one who was to come, the one sent by God to bring salvation to the world. This was the role of John the Baptist. He would be the messenger preparing the way. Amazingly, John the Baptist was a connection. He was a link between the prophets of ancient times and the people of Jewish history, called the Old Testament, and then the beginning of the New, the gospel stories of Jesus Christ. John stepped out of the Old Testament, and he would call all people to get ready for the new beginnings of God present in the world. He was calling people of the ancient world to prepare the way for the arrival of the New Testament, the gospel, the birth of Jesus Christ. He had a message to bring to those who were waiting, those who may have been ready for the arrival of the Messiah into their lives. Every valley will be filled in, John said. Mountains and hills laid low. Winding ways will be straightened. Rough roads made smooth, and all people shall see the salvation of God. So John had come. He had come with that great message from God, and it was his role to draw people into that moment when they would be prepared for the encounter with God's salvation promised to the world. Because somehow John had known the purpose of his mission, that he was the connection between the stories of ancient Israel and its people, and the beginning of the salvation event that God had promised. And John's role was then to call people to be ready for this change. He was that voice crying in the wilderness. He was the voice calling people to be ready for what was to come. And John had been faithful to his mission as prophet of the kingdom. Amazingly, once again, John the Baptist appears into our lives and into our world at this time in our Advent journey. Again, he was that voice crying in the wilderness of our lives. And he's a connection between us, between what has been this year that is slowly passing away and what will be, as we open ourselves to that moment of encounter with Jesus Christ, who enters into our lives once again through the Christmas story. John is that connection for us as well. And his message is the same. And his message is simple. Prepare. Down through the ages of our own history, John is that voice calling to us to prepare the way for the Lord, to make his paths straight. Somehow we enter into this Advent season each year, and every year we have the opportunity to get ready, to be open ourselves to that moment of encounter with the one who is to come, the one who is born at Christmas in Bethlehem, Jesus Christ, Messiah and Saviour. The message of John the Baptist to each of us is simple: to make his path straight, because God is coming. All people, John has told us, will see the salvation of God. So prepare the way of the Lord, coming into our world once again. Prepare the way within our own lives to be open to that moment of encounter through the Christmas event that is so fast approaching. He is coming. God is coming. And it's important for us to prepare the way in our lives for his arrival. All those things in our lives that may be valleys and hills will be leveled out so that the way is made smooth for the arrival of our salvation. This can only be achieved when we act. Through our days of prayer and preparation, we can indeed make his paths straight into our lives. Every year on this Sunday of Advent, we hear that voice crying in the wilderness. John the Baptist, once again, is that connection for us between what had been throughout this year that we have lived and what we can and will be for us as we enter into this new beginning through the Christmas story about to unfold. And at the heart of his message is that simple call to be ready. To be ready for what is to come. Prepare the way of the Lord, John tells us. Make his paths straight. He is coming. God is coming, and it's important for us to be ready for that sacred event in our lives. We have the opportunity to be ready for that moment of encounter. That's the call to all of us. That's the challenge presented to us by that lone voice crying in the wilderness of our lives. Through John the Baptist, both then and now, God is calling us to prepare. We are being called to get ready for that moment of encounter as Jesus enters into our lives once again through his birth at Bethlehem. That's what's happening for us. That's what's happening to us. God is coming once again. And it's time for us to prepare the way of the Lord. I wonder, through our prayer and times of reflection, are we truly prepared for that moment of encounter with God?